It's one of those things that I understand that the level of depravity really kind of gets under your skin.
A disturbing case out of Las Vegas, Nevada.
A lot of times you see these kinds of crimes are associated with individuals who are in their teenage years, typically boys. You certainly don't think of a grown adult woman actively engaging in something like this.
A 30-year-old woman is locked up accused of horrendous crimes, possessing lewd images of children, as well as performing and recording sexual acts between herself and her dog. On May 21st, Las Vegas Metro Police arrested Brenna Montgomery on charges including multiple felony counts of preparing, advertising, or distributing material depicting child pornography, 2 felony counts of possession of visual pornography of a person under the age of 16, and gross misdemeanor of bestiality. Although Montgomery was arrested in May of this year, the investigation began 3 years ago in 2021 when police received a cyber tip report from the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children. The tip regarded a Snapchat user who was transmitting 3 files of material involving children.
It's one of those things that I understand that the level of depravity really kind of gets under your skin. These kinds of things happen a lot. They happen all of the time. And I think it's important that we have appropriate and developmentally healthy conversations about sexual acts, about what sex means, about what sex behaviors should be and should not be, and understanding the role in which we all play in making sure that we keep ourselves and our society safe.
And the investigation would seemingly lead to Montgomery, as more sickening details would emerge. According to a report by KLAS, police would find more than 150 videos which appear to show Montgomery and her dog. Police reportedly noted that 5 of the videos showed Montgomery's face or her partial face. Some videos showed Montgomery using peanut butter, and some of the videos were duplicates.
Shocking, right? Grossed out. I mean, when you think about these kinds of crimes, particularly the bestiality aspect of it, you're usually thinking about someone who is still somewhat immature, right? A lot of times you see these kinds of crimes are associated with individuals who are in their teenage years, typically boys. You certainly don't think of a grown adult woman actively engaging in something like this. This is something that is extremely unusual.
Forensic psychologist Dr. John Delatorre explains he surprisingly comes across cases like this often.
Yeah, often, but that's again with juveniles. And usually these individuals kind of grow out of it. As they mature, their sexual interests go from, just having the impulse. Essentially, that's what it is, right? They have an impulse to engage in some kind of sexual activity, and there's no partner there to engage in the activity that they want to engage in. And so then they abuse the family pet, right? That's often how the pattern goes. It's definitely more impulsive that you don't really see with someone who is 30 years old and a woman. Research, such as it is, often suggests that when women commit these kinds of acts, particularly bestiality, there is often an associated child abuse component. So I'm not surprised to hear that not only is there bestiality in her background, but there is also child sexual abuse in her background as well. That it's still so rare to see this. But when we do see this, it starts from the woman being sexually abused as she was developing, and then growing into becoming an abuser because of the all of the confusion that she would have when it comes to sexuality and what is appropriate sexuality, and when are the boundaries that she needs to put up, when are those boundaries actually there, and when they're pretty pliable.
I just want to take a quick pause from this really disturbing story to give a quick thanks to Morgan & Morgan for sponsoring today's Law and Crime YouTube takeover. If you've seen our videos, you know Morgan & Morgan is a proud sponsor of Law and Crime, and that our content proves the world isn't always safe. When you're hurt, it can be confusing and scary, especially if you don't know where to turn. Well, Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm, can help. They're the largest injury law firm firm because they win a lot. Morgan & Morgan has recently received verdicts of $12.2 million in Florida, $26.2 million in Philadelphia, and $6.8 million right here in New York. All of these were significantly higher, by the way, than the highest insurance offer. Also, there's a $0 upfront fee. You only pay them if you win. If you've ever been injured in an accident, you can check out Morgan & Morgan, and you could submit a claim in 8 clicks or less without having to leave your couch. So you can start your claim by visiting www.forthepeople.com/YouTube takeover. Montgomery reportedly admitted during her police interview with detectives that she did engage in these activities, but added she didn't lock or force the dog to do such activities. As for how she got tied into the other charges, she claimed to come across the lewd images of children in a group on Telegram.
I mean, that's is just a sign of the times. Before, you would just get them through the mail. Even before, in way early times, they were legal. So it was okay for people to have some of these images. It's just a sign of the times. It's just the way in which we're communicating now. Before, it was snail mail. Now it's electronic mail. Discord, there's always going to be, if someone wants these things, there's always going to be a way for them to obtain it. And I think that's really the issue, which is how do we treat individuals who have these proclivities? How do we ensure that the behaviors that we all engage in that promote these kinds of behaviors, the society in which we live in, that make it okay for these abuses to occur? How do we stop these things systemically? I think is probably the thing that we need to look at. But it's such a large task that any one person can easily exploit someone else and then just post it somewhere, and it'll easily be found by those searching for it.
But would deny saving or downloading any graphic images of minors.
This is something that a lot of sex offenders say, that they just kind of stumbled across it, that they had no idea what they were doing. The problem is that pornography by itself isn't illegal, right? What makes it illegal is all the other things that are associated with it, like bestiality, like child pornography. So if she's going on Telegram for the specific purpose to engage in the exchange of sexual material, then she knows she's trying to hide it. She knows that this is material that she shouldn't have. So this idea that she didn't know that it existed, or that she was going to be obtaining it, no, I don't buy that.
According to the arrest report, Montgomery stated she accessed Telegram with her iPhone 12, and the app automatically downloaded the video she viewed on the app and saved to her phone, but then would later cop to transmitting 3 lewd videos of children on Snapchat during a role-play conversation.
Research when it comes to women sexual offenders, such as it is, often suggests that there is a male co-offender that is kind of the dominant one. It's usually that there's some man in the woman's life that has these deviant aspects to their sexuality, and they're able to coerce and manipulate the woman into engaging in these kinds of things. Now, that doesn't mean that the woman is not culpable, and that doesn't mean that the woman doesn't eventually have her own sexual deviancy. It's that typically these women find themselves in positions in which being abused and abusing others are a primary component of the relationship that they're in.
Nearly 2 months prior to Montgomery's arrest, she made this post to her Facebook page about finding her dog a better home. In the post, she wrote, "Although it saddens me, I realize now it is best for both of us. New beginnings will bring immense joy and success, especially for dearest Piper. I am no longer able to provide her with the care and attention she deserves. Home is where the heart is. Let's help Piper find her sanctuary. If you have any leads or recommendations for trustworthy adoption centers, please let me know." However, it's unclear if it's the same dog from the disturbing videos. And as Dr. Delatory notes, there is a link between Montgomery allegedly victimizing vulnerable victims, children, and animals.
They're linked, right? They're linked together oftentimes because of that manipulation, because that the individual has authority over them, that the victims in these cases, whether it's an animal or if it's a child, doesn't really have agency, and so they're able to be engaged in these behaviors against their will because they don't know how to say no. And even if they did know how to say no, it didn't matter because the perpetrator of the crime could easily just overwhelm that individual either through coercion, manipulation, or just physically. But listen, this is the kind of behavior, the recording of these abuses. These are the kinds of things that stick with the victim. Now, of course, there's obviously opportunities for them to be psychologically healthy, and that these traumas that they experience isn't going to dominate everything that goes on with them. But the fear that the person that they are interacting with, or that a stranger that they come across in their day to day life, has seen them in their most vulnerable moment, has seen them being victimized, is a common fear. It's a common refrain that these individuals have that never really go away, because once it's out there, it can't be stopped.
With Montgomery behind bars for the crimes, a Las Vegas Justice Court judge set her bail at $15,000 with high level electronic monitoring.
I mean, I don't know anything about how this particular court decides how their bail should be. I can see individuals, I can see the community being, this is clearly someone who is a risk to society, and I don't discount that. I think there's also the notion that she's a woman, that in terms of recidivism risk when it comes to sexual offending behavior, it's not very high. So why should it be high? I can tell about jail overcrowding, right? I get all of these arguments, but this is once again another sign of the systemic issues that we have. The system in place is probably the thing that we need to fix, rather than focusing on one solitary case in which the bond isn't as high as society would hope that it would be.
And that order comes with stipulations, such as no internet access, no contact with animals, and no contact with minors. But it will remain unclear if jail time will have an effect on Montgomery's alleged behavior.
When we look at the risk of recidivism when it comes to women sexual offenders, it's pretty low. It goes from either 0% that they're never going to reoffend to somewhere around 7% in 10 years, 20 years, maybe their lifetime. So in terms of, are we looking at someone who is going to reoffend? Maybe, maybe not. It's hard to tell without actually doing a risk assessment on her. The primary thing that I think I would be focusing on is, it's not that it's either bestiality or child pornography, child sexual abuse images. It's not that it's just either one of those two. It's that she has a combination of both. Now, again, these are the kinds of things that we would often see in male sexual offenders, having multiple sexually deviant behaviors, not as common in women. And so the more of them that you have, the higher the risk for recidivism ends up becoming. But it's also related to, how do they view relationships? Were they sexually abused? Are there ways in which we can diminish those risks of recidivism by tackling what exactly it is caused these things to begin?
At this time, Brenna Montgomery hasn't posted bond. Online records show she's still locked up in a Clark County jail in Nevada. Again, if she makes her bail, Montgomery was ordered by a judge to have no contact with minors, no internet access, and no contact with animals. She's scheduled to appear in court again on July 17th. Reporting for Law and Crime, I'm Elizabeth Milner.